Good evening. Welcome. I'm Matt Edwards here with voicelessons.com. We're doing our Thursday night live, doing a solo show tonight. But what we wanted to do is just kind of keep going through some of the questions we covered last week. If you didn't get a chance to be with us last week, you can view that video on our archives, either on our YouTube channel or on our Facebook page. And last week, what we started doing is going through questions specific about what to expect from voice lessons. We had a lot of requests for our teacher matching service. And we have teachers or singers who don't even know what a voice lesson consists of. And so we're kind of going through that information. If that seems to apply to you tonight, stay tuned and feel free to be able to, jump in and leave any questions that you have over in the chat. So let's get down here. We're going to get started. Sorry, I'm just trying to do both on a solo show tonight. All right, so here we go. This is the first one. I want to jump right back into this. I'm so nervous to sing alone with someone. This comes from Ari. So Ari, this is completely normal. You will feel self-conscious about walking into a room just to sing with a voice teacher because in all reality, that's kind of weird. It's not something that we do on an everyday basis. And anytime we encounter something for the first time, we're going to kind of have a bit of hesitancy about what we do. But I think it's important for you to remember that us as voice teachers, we are used to this. This is what we do all day, every day. It's our entire career. And we ourselves have been in your shoes before. We all had our first voice lesson at some time, and we went through years of voice lessons before we started teaching others how to sing. So, it's knowledge is power, and you having that realization that, you're just kind of taking the first step that I took at some point in time. And I would say that the majority of teachers out there remember what those first lessons were like and how awkward they felt. And so they also realize you might be coming in feeling that way. And they're going to do their best to kind of just explain things to you, explain what they're doing, and help you get comfortable. So, it's okay to feel that way, but the only way you can really improve is by getting, or if you reach that point where you feel like the only way you can improve is by getting that, outside input from someone else. This kind of is your only choice. And so what I would say is, just jump on in. Doing it online lessons can actually be a lot more comfortable for people because you're in your own space. There is something weird about walking into an in-person lesson and you're in somebody else's space and you're there right with them. You're in a new situation. But at least if voice lessons are brand new to you and you start in your own bedroom across a laptop, then it's a good place to be, and it can, make things feel a little bit better for you as you're getting started. All right, so Ari, thanks for writing in. If you have any other questions, just let us know. So the next question over here is going to come from Steph. And Steph asked, what if I don't sound like myself? I know I'm not great, but what if I don't even sing that well? So I think we're going to take this from the point of view of just, I know I'm not that great and maybe I don't even sing that well. Well, as a voice teacher, that's what we kind of expect. If you're coming for help, we're kind of expecting that maybe you are needing some extra, guidance and to find your own voice, that you don't even really know what that is. And you don't know how to sound like yourself because you haven't even reached that point yet of that level of self-awareness. And so the first thing most teachers are going to do is try to get you to sing like you speak. And so you will sound like yourself because you'll sound like you're extending your speaking voice. So if this is, my speaking voice you're hearing now, and I go into Mary Had a Little Lamb, it's Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb. Mary had a little lamb, its fleece was white as snow. And that's not my final product by any means. But that's the first step in starting to find that final product. And that's just kind of jumping in and, doing. So I got one. Never. I think Mike was trying to join us. If you can't see me out there, I can't tell if that was just trying to join the studio or not. There we go. Okay, I think that's what it was. So we're going to continue on with this. Mike said he might jump in and join us, so we'll see here. I think he's having some technical difficulties. But so just knowing that if your speaking voice is where you start, you're going to sound like you. Then the next steps come of refining what that speech sounds like. Now, If you're an indie artist, you write your own songs, we're going to probably stick to a lot of qualities that are real similar to speech. If you're going into, a rock band, a country band, again, you're going to be pretty close to your speaking voice. If you go into a jazz band, you're going to be making a wide variety of sounds, including a lot of sounds, especially as you scat, that are similar to the instruments that you're playing with. If you're singing with a musical theater production, you're going to need to learn the stylistic requirements of musical theater, the resonance requirements, all those things. So, there are moments where you're going to have to really get in there and get into the nitty gritty to twist. And through that process is when you're going to start finding different vocal qualities that you can make. And through finding those different vocal qualities, hopefully you will find yourself. So sorry, I'm trying over here deal with a technical issue. For some reason, our streaming platform tonight is not playing nice. Sorry about that. So thanks for hanging with us here. All right. So the next question up is, how does a teacher know what to suggest? They will only just hear me and have something to say. Yes, that is basically what happens. When you're, going into a lesson with a teacher, they have been singing for years themselves, so they already know how the voice works and how it's supposed to work and the kind of sounds that you make. And in a large part because they've had to go through that work and do that work for themselves. Now, what along that way of them learning how to make variations to their vocal quality, they learn the mechanics of how things move. So for instance, they would have learned at some point that to keep your voice from being nasal, you have to lift your soft palate. And then they would have learned exercises for that. And if they have a pedagogy background and they've studied voice science, they understand all the muscles that are in there that help that palate lift. And they've learned to identify sounds with what is happening in what we call the back room of the vocal tract. So even when I'm teaching people in mask in person at the university I teach at, I can tell when their mouth's not open the way that I want it to. I don't even see it, but I can just say to them, bring your lips forward on that vowel to get that R shape. And they'll be like, yep, I was smiling into it. And they'll make their lips come forward and they'll be like, that was it. I didn't even see it. I can just hear it. Right? I can hear, and then with one client this week, I said, your soft palate's not lifting as much as it can be. Singing with a mask, right? I can just hear that. And so then I said, let's go ahead and go over here to the mirror, and I want you to look in your mouth and see. And sure enough, he opened his mouth up, starts singing ah, and he sees his uvula down almost where his tongue is, and it's not lifting all the way up, right? So yeah, as one student said today, you're like a wizard. Yeah, kind of. We are like wizards. It's a lot of fun. I just don't have any magic wizard wand. But, I get to just take all these years of listening to voices and all this experience, and I can pinpoint exactly what it is. There's a student recently who was having tongue tension, and he had tried all kinds of other, exercises to get it done. I was listening to him, and I said, put your thumb under your chin and swallow. And he did. And then I said, now sing. And then I asked him, I said, after he sang, I said, does it feel the same as when you swallow? And he says, yeah, it does. I said, well, that's where the tension is. It's a root of tongue tension down here. There's a series of exercises I'm going to take you through to start releasing that. Sure enough, see him a week later, and it started releasing. And he's making a whole new set of sounds. So yeah, Scott, that's what we do. And it's a lot of fun, and we love it. That's why we have a whole live stream every Thursday night just to talk about it. And so, yeah, your teacher is going to be making suggestions because they're going to have those same, senses of how things move, how things work, and they're going to know what to do to get you started down that pathway. Now, look, sometimes it's not going to be an immediate fix like those. There are going to be times where I hear you sing, like another client I have, and I said, well, your vocal folds, you don't really have a whole lot of control over them. They're either softly closed or they're firmly closed. And as they started thinking about it, they're like, you're right. That is the only two options I have. And so I said, well, then what we're going to have to do is try to get you a variety of options. And without that variety of options, available to you, then we can, make any sound that you want on any given pitch. And so, but I said, this is going to be like a 6 to 8 week process of just starting to understand it. Then it's going to be a several month process of refining it. But 6 weeks later, that person came in and recently, and I listened to him sing, and it's already cleaning up. It's already starting to happen, and they're starting to make changes. And when they sang through a song, there was notes that weren't there before 6 weeks ago. So, things do take time, and it's not always going to be a fast change for you. But there are some things that can be rather quick. But yes, we're going to listen to you and then let you know what we think you can do to change your approach. So Reagan asks, what if I don't like the teacher? Or what if the teacher doesn't like me? Now, this is a common concern, and it's a valid concern. So let's think about this just in regular life. Not everybody gets along with the other person. We all have different viewpoints. We see the world in different ways. We see the world through the lens that we've developed over time. You know, as you grow up in the deep South and you're surrounded by jazz music and the blues, and you haven't really been exposed to lots of musical theater opera, you're going to see the world through that lens. If you're a New York City person who only knows those worlds of musical theater and opera and never turns on Spotify to just listen to pop music, and you encounter a jazz singer that sound maybe so completely foreign to you, you don't even know what to do to help that singer, right? So that can show up a lot. Now, in the ideal situation, the teacher's just going to say, you know, I don't know much about this style. And then they're going to give you one or two options. I have a friend who I know is good at this, who I think would be a better fit for you, which is awesome. Or they're going to say, I can help you with the things I can help you with, and then you can try to apply that to your work. And you know what? That's what a lot of people end up doing because there's so many subgenres that you may not uh, you need somebody who's like so specific to your genre. You just need somebody who can you can play a recording for and say, hey, this is the kind of sound I like. Can my voice do something in that range? And then the teacher, using their knowledge of vocal function, can guide you into what that sounds like. So, absolutely. Like, there are teachers that are going to fall on both sides of that.
But if they say, yes, I hate jazz music, I will never touch it, I will never help you sing that music, we're going to sing classical only, then it's not the right fit. And you just have to make a change. Now, what if you don't like the teacher? So that can arise as well. And a lot of times this is a personality situation. And some personalities just don't fit. I've had some students that I think are great. They're fabulous. They're super talented. I wish them nothing but the best. But after they graduate, I know there's a better fit for them out there. A lot of times I'll tell them, I think you're going to really like this person. You should check them out because, we can just tell. And I think that sometimes there's other approaches that might be really good for a singer that's a better approach than what I can give them, right? And so it goes both ways. And so if you are sitting there and you're looking at the teacher and say, yeah, I don't like this, then this isn't the right fit. Then you got to think, well, do I want to live through this a little bit and see if it improves, or should I try something else out and just move on completely? And that's an individual decision, and it's never easy to make. But I'd also say don't be afraid of making it. Sometimes you're afraid of hurting somebody's feelings. Students quit lessons. It's just what happens. We're voice teachers. We've been doing this for 20 years. Everybody has had somebody who's just disappeared for one reason or another, right? And sometimes it's not you, and it has nothing to do with singing. They just disappear because something happened in their life, and they just quit talking with everybody. So we're used to it. I don't like to just be ghosted and dead dropped.
So if you are having an issue, you're better off letting the teacher know, hey, I'm not sure we're the right fit. I really appreciate what you have given me, but I think I'm going to move on. I'm wishing you the best. And, I do know a few people, and if you like them enough to say like, hey, I have, a friend who I told that you might be a good fit for. You can do stuff like that as well. But just kind of be kind in the way that you approach the situation and talk with the teacher. But yeah, you should never feel like you're stuck, and you should never feel like you can't make it. All right, the next one comes from Zanai. And Zanai says, I might cry. Sometimes I cry when I get nervous. Will that ruin everything? No, it will not ruin everything. Zanai, we see people crying lessons all the time. It's happened this week. I just asked a question about a song, and I said, so what do you want your song to show about you as a person? And that student was having some struggles in that moment with who they are as a person that I had no idea were there, and the tears started to come. That is 100% normal.
There's nothing wrong with that, and it's perfectly okay. So I just will help the student through that. Again, teachers, if we've been doing this for a long time, you kind of know what's around the corner when that happens. You can see it starting to well up. Sometimes I can catch it before it does and go, are you just not feeling this song today? And they'll go, this is a tough one. I'll say, let's find a different song. I just switch it. Or like I had a student come in recently who I saw when I opened the door to my studio to let them in. I saw it in their eyes. I was like, they're not having a good day. And I just said, how's this week going? And they went, eh. I was like, you sound like you need to just sing a song you want to sing today. And they're like, I do. And I said, great, let's do that. And that's what we focused on.
right? So, we can see it on our side. Uh, the best teachers know how to help you through it and work with it. Please don't turn your voice teacher into your therapist. We're not trained. I will say I've read a lot about it. I've taken therapy myself to get a sense for what happens in it. Found it very helpful. But, my reading books and going through it myself don't really qualify me to help you. And so, yes, I can be a great resource for you to talk to me about troubles and stuff. But really try to, remember, even if you feel like the voice teacher is the only person you can bring this up to, that might be the case, but they may not have the training to be able to help you with what it is that you need to talk to, about somebody else. So the next question comes up from Kaylee, who asks, "What do I need to bring to the lesson? What should I wear?" So in general, you want to always bring a notebook or a journal of some type where you can write notes. The research shows that we retain information better when we write it by hand than when we type it up. So I'm a big fan of a writing utensil and a nice bound journal and notebook that you want to keep with you. You want to have some sort of a recording device. The recording device is going to oftentimes just be your phone. Just make sure you've got room on your phone to record and you have an app installed. You didn't accidentally delete it or it didn't offload itself from your phone.
In terms of, and bring water as well. This is my favorite water bottle. My students have them for their lessons. It's, insulated, keeps everything nice and cold. Carries more than enough to get you through a voice lesson. So something like that's really good. Helps save the planet and save your pocketbook as well. So grab a water bottle, bring that with you too. So critical things are water bottle, journal of some type, and a recording device. And then if you have sheet music for the music you're working on, I'd bring the sheet music with you. Otherwise, try to at least have some lyric sheets with you, and lyric sheets with a chord chart is always really nice. In terms of what you should wear, I would say whatever you would wear to go to a practice session in that genre. So if you are a rock singer, I would totally expect that you would show up dressed in whatever it is that you wear to practice with your band. And
I'm assuming if you're into like hard rock, it's got some Doc Martens with it, maybe some ripped jeans, some piercings, gauging, right? That's what I expect. And if you come in and you're an indie singer songwriter and you're just doing you on an everyday basis, I get it. We're cool. That's what you should wear. If you are, however, going to be an opera singer, walking into rehearsal with some of those outfits may not be considered good professional practice. So you would probably come in more with like jeans, a tucked-in shirt, and maybe some nice dress shoes on because you're often rehearsing in dress shoes since that's what you're wearing on stage. Or you could just wear sneakers and that would be fine too. But something more in line with what that genre expects. And for musical theater, you don't have to wear what you would wear to an audition, and you don't want to wear what you wear in the dance class unless you have no other choice. But just kind of wear what you would wear to rehearsal, like to a table read. If that's what if you would wear it to a table read, it's going to be good for this first lesson. All right, here we go. On to the next question. This one comes from Ronaldo. How do I know whether a teacher is trustworthy? This is a hard one because there is no national certification for voice teachers. And there are professional organizations. Some of them have some in-depth application processes, but a lot of other ones do not. And so what I would say is we want to see that change in the industry. And if you're a voice teacher, please consider joining the Pan American Vocalogy Association and the National Associations of Teachers of Singing. And that way you can be part of these
conversations about how we make sure that students can find trustworthy and qualified teachers. In general, I believe that the best teachers have some background in voice pedagogy and voice science and research. Now, look, voice science and research can get a bad rap. Some people think it's only staring at computer screens to dissect what's happening in the voice and then trying to use the computer to teach a singer. That's not the only kind of voice science. There's plenty of us who specialize more in biomechanics, and the biomechanics is understanding really how everything functions, what its structure is, how it functions, and things that can get in the way. And those connections start at the brain. So we also have to understand the mind and understand the learning process. And to me, that's what's going to make the most trustworthy teacher for you, is that somebody who understands how other people learn,
how to break down information into bite-sized chunks that can be pieced together over time so that the singer can learn the complete skill. There's research that has led us to understand how that process works, and we know from that research that you get better results when you do work that way. The biomechanic part of the puzzle goes to being able to fix the issue itself when somebody brings it up. So if someone says they have jaw tension, instead of focusing on the breath, we actually get in there and massage the jaw out, try to make sure that the muscles that have been tensing are free. If that doesn't take care of the issue, then we check in at the vocal folds and see if the registration is down. Because if it's not, a lot of times it's going to lead to jaw problems. And of course, we got to check the tongue as well. But we have like a checklist that we can go through to say, hey, is it this? Is it that? Is it this? Is it that? Is it this? Or is it that? And to me, that's what makes somebody a trustworthy, consistent teacher. Somebody who continues to deliver results.
Now, the best gauge of how a teacher's doing, and if you feel like you can trust them, is the results that they're producing from their students. If they have a lot of singers who are doing a lot of great things and who aren't running into trouble and are changing, like you hear their voices being shaped and changed, and they get better and better and better, then that's something to be excited about. You can't always get that opportunity to hear singers, though. So a lot of times you're going to have to go on word of mouth and maybe look at their website. A lot of teachers will post examples of their students on their websites. Another good way to look for information. And, also just look up their bio on their teacher's website. Sometimes they will list former students or let you know what former students are doing. And if former students are doing the kinds of things that you want to do, there's a good chance it's going to be a good fit. Can I ask the teacher questions, and what should I ask? Yes, you can absolutely ask questions. In fact, we know as teachers that's one of the most important parts of the learning process is when the student starts asking what they want to know, because that often enlightens us to things that they don't understand, even if we've presented the information before. And if they have forgotten something, it's okay. It's not a big deal. It's part of the learning process. So yes, now you can come in with too many questions. If you come in with a question and 35 minutes later, we're still talking about your list of questions, you might be asking too many questions. And if the teacher is saying, yes, we're going to get to that, trust them that they're going to get to that. So like, let's say I have a singer come in and they're asking me a bunch of questions about resonance, but their vocal folds aren't even coming together and vibrating the way that they need to for the resonance to work. There's not a whole lot of point of me going into in-depth conversations about
how to adjust the resonance when the resonance is not even a problem right now. Because if they go do those adjustments, they're not going to get the result that they want. And I know that that has a negative impact on the learning process. If they go and they just really want to know about resonance, and resonance is not the issue, they're going to go do exercises that are not going to work for them, and then they're going to become convinced that something else is the problem. When, like I said before, the problem is the vocal folds are not vibrating in the correct mode to give us the frequencies we need to resonate with the vocal tract. So that's why if you're bringing in these really complex questions and they're saying we're going to get to that, you're not really there at that point right now. Trust them. They're not withholding information. They're just trying to get to work with you, right? Like if I'm talking questions with you 35 minutes into your 1 hour lesson, it's just a little bit hard for me because I feel like I'm getting behind. I have things I want to get to. I want to try to keep doing the development work that we've been doing because it's exciting to me and we're getting sidetracked, right? So try to keep it to maybe 1 or 2 questions that are directly related to what the teacher had asked you to practice. And then, if there's extra time or you are feeling sick one day, you'll probably have opportunity to, ask more of those questions. And over time, 1 or 2 questions a week is going to lead to a lot of information that you're going to have. Now, what should you ask them? If you take notes when you practice in your journal, you're going to want to write down when you are unsure about something. So you might say, was practicing the day and the E above middle C felt really tight. And then you could go into your teacher and say, when I was practicing last week, I was doing the eval exercise and it got really tight and really uncomfortable. Do you have any idea why that could be, or could we maybe work on that today? And then that opens the door for them to then take time to go and hear the way that you're practicing it and see if they can't help you make an adjustment. Those are the best kinds of questions. Or if you're, working on a specific song and you come to a problem spot, to let them know, hey, I was doing everything that you had suggested last week, but it still didn't seem to work. Could it be that I'm not lifting my palette here, kind of like I wasn't in that other song? That would be a good question. That would lead again towards growth, towards helping you really tune in to what the problem is. But yeah, ask questions. Now, if you're looking for a voice teacher or a voice coach and you want to ask questions during that process, the best questions are, make sure you understand
the length of the lessons, how much the lessons are going to cost. You want to make sure if there's any expectations of what they want you to bring besides the things I've mentioned. You can ask them if there are any group opportunities, and like, do they ever get their students together for concerts, or do they get their students together to have like studio class where they all sing for each other? You can ask them about their own background, and you can even ask them, so what's your approach with, a rock singer? And then, let them tell you a little bit about their approach. Some may keep it pretty short. Some might give you something that's more in depth. And, you're going to just have to kind of take it in and make a judgment for yourself if it seems to align with what you're looking for. And unfortunately, this is definitely one of the parts of life where you're going to have to invest some money. And just like in the stock market, you might lose some to eventually make some. You might invest some money in a voice lesson or two that's just going to be a flop. And you're just going to have to realize this is part of this world. And you're going to have to then look for that other teacher and pay again for another first lesson, but looking for something that's a better fit for you. So sorry, but it is a world where unfortunately we all as teachers have to make money to eat, which brings us to the next question. Why are voice lessons so expensive? So there's a variety of reasons why voice lessons are expensive. You're paying for somebody's one-on-one time. And that one-on-one time has a limit during the week. Most people can't do one-on-one with students for more than 40 hours. In all reality, most teachers I know are exhausted after 20 to 25 hours. Because you got to remember that 20 to 25 hours of teaching isn't their only job. They're also spending time outside of lessons, looking for new songs, purchasing songbooks, organizing sheet music, organizing possibly concerts,
trying to read up on the newest research so they make sure they're giving you the best information possible, attending conferences, which they have to pay for out of their own pocket to gain more information that's going to eventually help you. And then they got to be their own accountant, their own marketing manager, their own HR manager, and they got all those duties as well. So teaching 25 hours with all the other work is easily a 40 to 50-hour a week job. Trying to teach 40 hours a week is more like a 60 to 65-hour a week job. Now, voice teachers usually have at least a master's degree. And if you went out into the world with a master's degree and were working 40 hours a week, you should expect to make around $60,000 a year. And so you just got to do a little easy math right there, is that if a teacher has that reasonable expectation and they are only able to teach, they want their vacation time like anybody else does. So let's say they give themselves 4 weeks vacation, which again, with a master's degree would be reasonable. So if we take that 68 and divide it by 40 and then divide it by the 20 hours they get to work, you're looking at a $62 voice lesson. So yeah, that can seem kind of expensive, but you're paying for time with somebody who has went to university to get a bachelor's degree and a master's degree to bring information, consolidate it, and give you what you need with their highly trained ears and their highly trained skill set with exercises and the other insights that they bring in terms of motor learning and artistry. They've spent all that time and investment to bring it to you. It's reasonable that they want to make a living that's equivalent to what someone else with a master's degree would make.
And then, of course, we go up from there, because that's just saying that's base level. You have a master's degree and you want to have a decent standard of living. But if you have people who, like myself, have gone to get their doctorate degrees, have written books, have presented at conferences, I have so much information that I can give you in 1 hour that could take you years to find on your own. And so someone in any other field with that is going, who, a lot of knowledge, who's a published author, who has, done all the work to become an expert in what they do and has a doctorate in that field as well, they're going to have a higher salary out there at a marketing firm and a business or an academia. And so you can also expect to pay more for one of those teachers in the private practice world. So when you see teachers who are charging $100, $165 an hour, the question is, are they worth it? Yep. But they might not be the teacher you need right now. You'll know when that's the teacher that you need, because you will have gone through everyone else and realized, okay, I got to get some of that knowledge that they have been doing this for 25 years and researching it. And you'll go in there with a specific problem. Like I have people come in and go, I have extreme tongue tension and no one seems to know the answer to it. Well, I do. 99% of the time, you get rid of your tongue tension in 6 to 8 weeks, most of it.
And so then if I take you in 6 to 8 weeks through that problem, and that's all the time that we work together, A, I'm okay with that. But if you spent 6 to 8 years fighting with tongue tension, it was probably worth the higher price tag to go to the expert with extensive training. So that's why some of these voice lessons
that you see that have a higher rate, the rate's justified because of the amount of work that these instructors do, going to
conferences, doing research, writing, reading, consulting with others, mentoring others. All of that experience gives them a level of knowledge that you're not going to find in a lot of other instructors. And then, of course, there's everything in between. Everything in between the person who has your base standard of teaching ability, and then your people who work with established pros. And you're going to find all kinds of levels. And a lot of it's also going to depend on where you live. In New York City, you could easily pay $125 an hour for somebody with a master's degree pretty fresh out of school because it costs a fortune to live in New York. All right, living expenses are about double. So paying double the price for beginning voice lessons in New York City is just the norm. That's just how it works in that marketplace. Outside of New York, that seems really high. Inside of New York, that seems cheap. So, also realize your geographical location changes a lot of things. But that's where online lessons can come in really nice and handy, because with an online lesson,
you're able to work with people all over the country. And if you're just getting started, you live in Manhattan, you can probably find a teacher somewhere in the Midwest who's amazing, who teaches online lessons and is not charging $125 an hour. Our final question of the night, if you have any of yourself, pop them in the chat. Let me check that real quick. Great. Hold on. I'm just kind of checking here. How do you... Great. Sarah, I see that you were saying, I'll make sure I probably got too far on without me. Sorry, too far away from the mic. How do you identify tongue tension? Well, there's lots of ways. First of all, you can usually hear it. It has a sound. It's a small taste of that, or an sound in the back. The is more of a narrowing into the tongue that creeps into. The is more of a dropping down of the tongue. As you listen to the singer sing certain vowels, you start to realize that if they're in and you hear that little bit of tongue retraction, you know where that's creeping in. If you hear them going for an E and the E is getting more of that Kermit the Frog sound, that's usually narrowing tension inside of the tongue. And then you test that theory. So if I think it's narrowing tension and I tell you to sing with a wide tongue and the sound goes away and the artifact that I'm hearing goes away and the voice clears up, then I know it's a narrowing tension inside of the tongue. If I hear that sound pulling back on an vowel, I'll have you sing with your tongue out, and if that sound clears up right away, then I know it was tongue retraction. If in general a lot of your vowels sound a little bit foggy, a little bit muddy, usually that means you have a lack of agility in the tongue to get it to where it needs to be to make vowel modifications throughout the range. And there are sets of tongue agility exercises that we can take you through to improve your motor system's connection through tongue movement, and that will then eventually start to clean up your vowels and consonants, which will then, your tongue will stop fighting you when you're singing, and so that sensation of tongue tension will go away. Most of the time, tongue tension isn't tension, it's a lack of agility, and we just need to improve your agility and the tension will go away. Great. All right, last question is, why would I need lessons? Maybe we should talk about this first. I've been singing since the day I was born, literally. Yep, you're right. And so I kind of know what I'm doing. Yep, you kind of do. But if you're not happy with where you are, or you're finding there's things that you can't do, that's when you would need lessons. Look, there are some people who grow up in a musical family, singing along all the time, who are kind of natural singers. I see it in my kids. They actually, neither one of them really likes to sing, which is kind of funny. They're 9 and 4. But they sing on pitch, both of them. When they are goofing around, they sing on pitch. They sing loud because they hear their mom and dad singing loud around the house, so comfortably loud, but they're not singing that soft and breathy. They're using their full voice, and they're happy to play around with it, and they're not embarrassed about it or anything at all. So if they decide to sing 20 years from now, they're probably going to be doing pretty good, and they may not need a whole lot of lessons just because they've grown up around singing. My brother was that way. He eventually took lessons, but even before he did, he still sounded great for his age. This is when he was in high school, because he just had it in his ear. He had played around with it since the time he was young, just imitating me. when he was hearing me practice around the house, and he picked up a lot of stuff naturally. Some people are that way. But let's say that, you have been singing naturally the way that you have since you were born, and then all of a sudden you start feeling tension creeping into your throat, and you're starting to lose your voice if you sing for more than, like, let's say an hour. Well, that's a sign that something's changing in your body and you haven't changed along with it. And if you keep doing the thing you're doing where it's tight, you're going to run into bigger problems, including maybe voice damage. That's why you would need lessons. You would just want somebody to listen to it and say, oh, yeah, well, at your age, your vocal folds are probably thickening a little bit, and you may have been able to get away without using, this kind of respiratory control when you were younger, but now I think you might need it. Maybe, let's say, introduce that respiratory control. You see a big improvement. There you go. That was the issue. Take a few more lessons to make sure you understand it. And then you might discover I'm fine. You don't need anything else. And then you can just move straight on, going back on to doing your own work. That's normal. You may come along, though, and realize that you want to get into a highly defined style, something like opera. Well, if you want to be an opera singer, even if you've been singing since birth, you got to learn the tricks of the trade. Opera singers have to project their voice over an orchestra without any amplification, and they have to sing in Italian, French, German, oftentimes also Spanish, Czech, and Russian. That's a lot of languages to cover. So you need to start studying how to pronounce languages that are different than English. Or if English isn't your first language, different than whatever your first language is. And also learn how to sing in English and in a version of English that's acoustically projected. The way that we sing as opera singers is not going to be the same as we speak. So you're going to have to learn those refinements. If you want to be a jazz singer, there's a whole skill set of understanding the way that charts are written, understanding harmony. You can learn by doing with that easily. But, if you're growing up in the Midwest and you have no jazz musicians near you that you can go hang out with, you're going to have to go somewhere where you can do that. Now, you could just move to a big city like New Orleans and hang out there, wait tables, get around the music, and then start trying to work your way to meeting people who can help you, start jamming with them and learning the tools that way. Or if you really want a college degree in something, you can go to college and major in jazz and learn all the stuff that way. So, there's lots of reasons why you would need lessons, but, you bring up a good point, is there are a lot of people out there who have been singing since the day they were born, and they're happy with the sounds that they're making. And really, to all of us as teachers, that's the most important thing to us, is that our students are finding joy in making music and communicating the human experience through song. So if they, are happy with where they are after 6 months of lessons and go, this is really what I need, and I'm happy now in the way I go, I'm happy to watch them move on and bring somebody else in that I can help. All right. So, I think a lot of times singers get scared away from lessons because of some of the things we talked about tonight. But I want to assure you that as voice teachers, we've seen a lot and we've worked with a lot of people, and we are here to help. That's the reason that we do what we do. Because believe me, you could make a lot more money selling real estate or, doing some fancy job in a big corporation. But you want to get to make beautiful music all day with really incredible people. And that's why we do the thing that we do. So, if you're out there, you're looking for a teacher, have been struggling to find somebody, reach on over to us here at voicelessons.com. Mike and his team have a voice teacher matching service where they can have you answer some questions about your personality, what you're looking for, your prior experience. And then the teachers have taken some questionnaires as well, and they can go through and try to match you up to some people for demo lessons so you can get a feel for what a lesson would be like in the first place, and also get a feel for a couple different teachers through these different demos. And they do a great job at making matches, and I know they'd be happy to help you as well. So thanks everybody for tuning in tonight, and we'll see you again here next week on the voicelessons.com Thursday Night Live. So we'll see you then.